Good evening. I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. I welcome John Avlon of CNN and the Daily Beast. John is joining me tonight because we are going to comment about the ongoing political contest in the Republican Party, but we're going to start with 9/11. John was with Rudy Giuliani's campaign in 2008 when 9/11 was much part of the conversation of the Giuliani campaign. The mayor's been a centerpiece of interest these last days for the celebration. Good evening, John.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I am puzzled about Rudy Giuliani because what he represents is national security and certainly the ability to defend the homeland for these last 10 years. However, he is not a candidate for the Republican Party now and was not successful in 2008. My general understanding is that Rudy Giuliani represents a part of the Republican Party that is not rewarded. He is socially liberal. He is, in fact, socially libertarian. He minds his own business and other people mind their business. He does not advance the social wedge issues that are popular in parts of the Republican Party. On the other hand, he's a fiscal conservative, and he's certainly a strong representative of the national security.
Yep.
Why doesn't that work, John? What about the formula between 2008 and now 2011 makes it not successful?
I think that there actually is room in the field for someone like Rudy Giuliani, who is a strong fiscal conservative, a national security hawk, but more libertarian on social issues. The key to Rudy, what makes Rudy different than a John Huntsman, for example, is that Rudy is willing to go to the hoop. He likes to play offense in his politics. He's not going to be apologetic about his views or criticize the Republican Party unduly. He's going to be frank about the differences that exist. But the problem is right now the Republican Party is more and more conservative populist and a kind of urban Republican reformer, which Rudy Giuliani is. And I was proud to work for him when he was mayor of the city of New York. He was able to prove that we were a governable city in New York and over a city that was 5-1 Democrat. So he's got the kind of, I think, experience that a Chris Christie riffs off that profile. I think when people ask Chris Christie to run for office, it's the same sort of political profile that Rudy Giuliani has. In recent days, he has said that, the reality is that the current hyper-partisan Republican primary it puts him at a political disadvantage. But the tragedy, of course, is that polls show he'd be a very good general election candidate.
I want to turn to the president today. He was making a speech in the Rose Garden, presenting his jobs bill from the jobs presentation to the joint session of Congress last week. The reason I focus on the president is because I see his initiative as a political act, not an economic one. It is far too late in the business cycle for any jobs that he talked about last week to show up before the election, before the electorate is fixed on their decision for 2012. However, as a political document, it has advantages. First of all, he needs an opponent. And right now, there is no particular opponent in the Republican Party, and there won't be, because this is a referendum about the president. But he needs a talking point. Is that jobs bill effective in making the Republicans the opposition to the Obama administration?
I think the Republican response will determine that. I don't just think this is a political bill. This is a policy bill. One of the reasons the speech on Thursday night was effective, people would have turned off automatically if it was just a bunch of pretty words from President Obama. People are over that. What he did instead was put forward a policy speech in direct language. And as a former speechwriter, I can appreciate that can be tough to do, to create engaging policy speech. But the centerpiece idea was this: every single piece of legislation proposed and put forward today in the actual legislation itself was bipartisan. It has been supported in the past by Republicans and Democrats. So the real political aspect of it, whether there creates an opening for him to run against Republicans, and there's every indication he kind of wants to do a Harry Truman 1948, give him hell Barry approach against the do-nothing Congress, is whether Republicans will play into that narrative. If for the first time are Republicans going to say that they oppose tax cuts simply because they come from President Obama? Are they politically going to say that they oppose creating incentives for corporations to hire returning GIs? Are they going to oppose lowering the corporate income tax rate in exchange for closing loopholes or creating a public-private infrastructure bank? I mean, that becomes a question for Republicans today. Reasonable Republicans will tell you that they should engage on the specific issues they've supported in the past that are philosophically consistent. The folks on the far right have embraced a total no-Obama agenda. They will oppose the president on anything. And I think that risks the wrath of swing voters and independents who want to see government work again.
I have spent time speaking to the left of the Democratic Party, and it's striking again and again, John, how similar are the tactics of the left of the Democrats
Sure.
and the right of the Republicans. Now, they're not the same people. They don't have the same agenda. They're not from the same part of the country.
But they're cut from the same cloth.
Yes, the tactics are the same, and they do not work, and fine. Now...
No, but hold on. Let's just talk about that for fun, because this is right in my wheelhouse.
Right.
This is the problem in our politics. The problem in our politics is we're in this cycle of incitement, where the extremes have disproportionate influence inside their own
and
parties.
boy, do they get attention from television.
Well, they do, because they suck up the oxygen, they throw the bombs, they demonize the opposition. This is what I was writing about in Wingnut. Is this dynamic. Folks who want to hijack the political debate because they profit from polarization, personally, professionally, or politically. And I think increasingly, though, people are recognizing that hyperpartisanship that they represent is the problem in our politics. So while they do suck up the oxygen, while I do polarize the process, they are the problem. And they do echo each other in tactics and tone all the time.
All right, you want an example? I'll give you an example. The Keystone XL pipeline, now a decision at the White House. This will bring the oil sands of Alberta right to the Gulf, to our refineries. It cuts us free of the dependence on foreign oil. It's good for jobs, the jobs that will happen right away, for the building, for the construction. All of that is opposed by the Democratic left because of, and then fill in the blank, climate change, global warming, destruction of the environment, and by the way, we can do it with renewable sources. All of that is self-destructive behavior, but boy, does it get attention.
Of course it does. And you get Daryl Hannah gets arrested. You get the celebrity factor in there. And of course, today in some of the pregame analysis we're doing on CNN, Tea Party activist and radio host Dana Loesch was saying that the one thing she would support is if the president signed this piece of legislation. Right. Again, I mean, it's the extremes empower each other. They echo each other. And the far left has been saying for a long time that President... I mean, here's the craziness of our debate, John. The far right thinks President Obama is a socialist, and the far left thinks
Martian socialist.
Sorry, yes.
born on another planet.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And the far left thinks he's a corporate sellout. I mean, it's a crazy schizophrenic political debate.
But they demand attention, and they get it, and I'm not going to talk about
because reasonable people don't chain themselves to
Let's
fences.
talk about the political middle right now. The political middle is determinative of one particular... This would be called a by-election if we had a parliamentary system. It's not New York. It's an open seat. It's going to vote the 13th, I believe, a week from tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the 13th. What are you doing, John? Okay, it's the 13th of September. Wow, that was fast. And the polling, which is iffy in a special election, the polling is showing a huge swing towards the Republican. Not because anybody knows who he is, and not because the Republicans have advanced something that New York suddenly said, "Oh, what were we thinking? The GOP, our kind of place." No, because the independents have decided to be contrary and vote for the other side.
Right. It's important to understand this district. Yes, this is Anthony Weiner's district. It also is Geraldine Ferraro's district. It also, not coincidentally, was Archie Bunker's district. This is the district, roughly speaking, because the lines change over a bit, where Archie Bunker allegedly lived back in the All in the Family sitcom in the 1970s. So I think it's important to appreciate that some of the voters do have strong culturally conservative instincts. Republicans aren't starting from zero in this district. It's Queens and Brooklyn. And the polls show the Republican candidate Bob Turner up around 6 points. Now, there still is a huge Democrat registration advantage, but special elections are always about intensity. They're high-intensity, low-turnout elections, and that'll benefit folks who are really angry at the Obama administration. Remember, we had a New York special not that long ago up in Buffalo, Jack Kemp's old district, that a Democrat won for the first time in 70 years. So what you see here is a pattern, and it's not just in New York, of people running against the machine. They're trying to send a message. They're angry. They want to upset the status quo to send a message to Washington.
9 New York, we're watching. And if it is an iconoclastic year, that goes Republican. And of course, both parties will take the wrong lesson. John Avlon with his colleagues Jesse Angelo and Errol Lewis, publishing Deadline Artists, America's greatest newspaper columns and columnists. And through the course of the evening, John will have an opportunity to talk about some of his favorite columns collected in this new book. I'm John Batchelor. This is The John Batchelor Show.